that's why in this video I wish to talk about our method of learning actually, and I wish to talk about method of learning physics and our method of learning and all. Okay. So at the end of the session you better to ask the doubt. Okay. Again, I want to keep this video for a long time. That's why at the end of this session you can just ask, you can just keep asking the doubts. Okay. Now again, I think I have, if you Google it about learning method, physics learning method, or just Google it like how to learn physics, okay, you will find these things actually. Suppose if you go through WikiHow web page and all, you will find these three. First one is reading multiple books, reading multiple textbooks. So that's the first one. Second one is asking questions and clarifying doubts. So third one is solving more and more problems. Fourth one is teaching the concepts to others. Okay, so this is actually Feynman technique of learning. Let me explain later. So fifth one is discussion in group. Okay, so let me try to elaborate one by one. And again, in my course, I'll always try to implement these things. Okay, I'll try to design my course so that, or I'll try to instruct my student in such a way that these things should be implemented. Okay. Now again, let me start with reading multiple books. Okay, the natural question arises. Okay, again, why we have to read multiple books, isn't it? Because all books may, so contain same physics, isn't it? Still, why we need to read multiple books? So very important point here is, you may not be convinced with one point of view. If you take any concept, okay, if you read any one textbook, you may not be completely convinced with one point of view actually. So again, each one of us are very different. Okay, each one of us are very different. So because of that, again, I may understand one concept in one point of view or in one possible way. So you may try to understand the same thing, same concept, same physics in a different way. So that's why if you read only one book, sometimes it is, so again, it may not, you may not feel satisfied actually. So that's why reading multiple books is very important. So again, when you read multiple books, you will get different point of view, different approaches, isn't it? So when you get different approaches, if any one of the approach is very convincing for you, so then you will feel satisfied. Okay, so that's why reading multiple books is a very important part in case of learning physics. And one more thing is how it is relevant to exam preparation. If you see that one, okay, so reading and solving textbooks are very important, because there are many questions they will directly arrive from textbook actually. So in exam, so you will get many problems which are directly designed out of books. So that's the one aspect. Other thing is, when you read and when you solve textbook, you will get a lot of confidence to solve very new questions actually. So rather than only learning, so using only formula based or so that kind of technique. Okay, so reading multiple textbook and again, or reading textbook, again, it will give you much more confidence to solve very new question in your own way actually. Okay, ultimately you should find your own way. Okay, so that's why again this is quite challenging in our course, because we have only less time here. Am I right? We have only 6 months time here. So that's why reading multiple textbook is very challenging in our course. So that's why what I do is, I am going to suggest only 1 or 2 textbook for my students, maximum 2 textbook. Okay, suppose if you take quantum mechanics, I am going to suggest quantum mechanics by Jetili, quantum mechanics by David Griffiths. Okay, I'm going to suggest only those 2 books. Again, if for some topic, if those 2 books are not sufficient, I may suggest some other book, but I'll try to suggest maximum of 2 books for any topic, for any subject, so that again student can manage, within that time student can manage to study that one. Okay, so again what I do is, again then you may not get different perspective, isn't it? Again, if you read only 2 textbook or only 1 textbook, you may not get different perspective on the same topic, you may not feel satisfied actually. So that's why what I do is, for my reference, I am going to refer a lot of textbook while preparing for the discussion or explanation and all, and I am going to present those things in front of you, so that again ultimately my idea is to grab different perspective from different textbook, and so putting those things to your mind. Okay, so that is the first part. I'm trying to implement that one. Okay, so reading multiple textbook again, not directly, indirectly. Okay, again you should refer so my students should refer at least 1 or 2 textbook. Okay, and I am going to refer many textbook and I am going to present the concept in front of them. And in the discussion, usually sometimes we can develop our own approach. Okay, in the discussion we can develop our own point of view on the concept, which is very apart from the textbook. That's actually happened a lot of the time. Okay, so let me go to second part here. So that is asking question and clarifying doubts. Okay, that is the second part. So in this part, suppose if you are studying physics, okay, but still if you are not getting any doubt, then there is something wrong. In that case, if you are studying physics, means doubt should naturally arise. Okay, there is no what you call if doubts are not coming out, then again there is something wrong in your method of learning, or what you call in your approach or something. So that's why again look at here. While studying, again this is also Feynman quote, you should find the difference between knowing the name of the something and knowing something. Okay, suppose I may right now I may speak about quantum field theory, isn't it? I know the only word actually, still I have to study that one. Is that okay? I may talk about quantum chromodynamics, isn't it? It's quite fascinating to say, but it requires a lot of effort to understand those things, isn't it? Again, I don't know those actually. So again, that's why we should find the difference, knowing the name of the something and knowing something. Okay, and one more point here is, when you study physics, why doubts are not coming out. Again, suppose if you are in that what you call stage, why doubts are coming out. If I just dig into that one, so what I am finding is, sometimes many students, what they will do is, even though they are not understanding anything, they will pretend to be like they understood everything. That should not happen. Why people will pretend to have full understanding even though they haven't understood that one very well? Because it is because of ego. Actually, we have to leave ego to learn physics properly. Even I am going to what you call, I'll never show ego in my any classes. If I know something, I'll tell you I know this one. If I don't know anything, suppose if you ask any doubt, if I don't know that one, I'm going to tell I don't know, and again I'm going to answer in the next class. I don't show any ego while learning physics, because my whole journey itself is a learning process only. So that's why you should not pretend to have understanding if you haven't understood that one well enough. And you should leave ego. Ego is the very what you call affecting factor. Okay, ego is what you call, ego will not allow you to express doubts actually. What you may think again, so you may think what others will think of you if you ask doubt like that. Okay, that should not happen. Doubts should naturally arise. If you stop pretending, if you leave your ego aside, doubts will naturally arise. And while clarifying that doubt, okay, when you start clarifying that doubt by reading the textbook, in the discussion, or by asking the question and all, so what would happen is you will have very clear cut understanding, and you will experience a kind of understanding kick actually. That understanding kick will what you call push you towards more and more hard work actually. That okay, so that's why asking question and clarifying doubts are very important part in learning physics. So that's why what I do is I'll spend considerable amount of time again in grabbing the doubts from the student, or motivating the student to ask doubt, as well as clarifying them. So most of the doubt I am going to answer instantly. Some doubt again, if concept is getting into very deep, I'll refer some textbook and I am going to answer. So I feel if I am not answering any doubt, what I feel is again that natural tendency may be suppressed. If that doubts are not cleared, natural tendency of asking doubt, that may be suppressed. So that's why I spend much time on this one again. So grabbing doubt from the student and so clarifying those doubts. That's very important. Okay. So next one is solving more and more problem. Now, when you see some textbook, suppose if I take Griffith's quantum mechanics or Griffith's electrodynamics or Jatili or Gostin, if I take any of these textbook, you will find lot of problems, isn't it? Have you thought why the author will give that many problems? Isn't it? If you take Griffith's quantum mechanics or Griffith's electrodynamics, it contains lot of problems. Many concepts actually, those concepts, many topics, they lie, they usually lie in the problem. Okay, if you take Griffith's books actually. So now when you think of why they are giving more problem, again we have to again get back into learning physics part. Okay, learning physics contain two parts. One is understanding the concept. So second one is applying them. If you don't know how to apply them, that means you haven't understood it well enough actually. So that's why what they do is again, and one more thing is while solving the problem, suppose again when you study any topic, you may feel that you understood that concept. Again, you will not find the what you call gaps in your understanding actually. So that's why when you solve problem, while solving problem, you have to apply whatever you have learnt or whatever the concept you have understood. Okay. So during the process of solving the problem, you need to apply that one. You need to apply the concept. You will find the gaps in the understanding actually. Again, you will find the gaps in the understanding. So again, finding gaps in the understanding is very important. But then you can fill out that gap. You can discuss. You can ask doubt. You can read the textbook again, and you can fill that gap. That's the one aspect. Other aspect is again, so it will practice applying the what you call concept, whatever you have learned. That applying the concept, again, even though you had full 100% understanding, sometimes again that skill of applying that concept is very important. So only if you have that skill, again it is a kind of complete learning. So that's why solving more and more problem. So that's very important. That's why I have chosen very what you call very famous textbooks which contains very handful of problems. Again, we don't have to worry about any what you call innovative problem. All authors usually they put lot of innovative problems in their textbook, so that again we just have to solve that one. So that again our learning our learning physics part will be more and more complete. So that's the third one. I'll go to fourth one. So this will be definitely implemented in our course because okay, yeah. So we need to teach the concepts to others, because then only when we start speaking out, what will happen is we will find the gaps in our understanding actually. And again, this is actually Feynman technique of learning. Suppose if you Google it about Feynman technique of learning, you will find so this kind of aspect actually. When you start teaching, then when you are in front of other, you can't pretend actually, isn't it? They are listening or they are seeing, and so again because of that, what would happen is you need to have clear cut understanding to teach that one to others. But again, even though you don't have clear cut understanding, you should try to teach other to find that gap in your understanding, so that you can go back and you can study again. Now again, during that discussion actually, all students should involve in that discussion, and they should try to answer the doubt which is asked by others actually. They should raise the doubt, okay? They should openly raise the doubt without any ego, without pretending, okay? Again, so that is this part, asking doubts, okay? And along with that one, what they should do is they should try to answer the doubt asked by others. You don't have to worry, okay? You don't have to worry about whether you are right or wrong, okay? You should express yourself. Again, I am going to what you call invigilate all of those processes. I am going to supervise all of those processes. Suppose if any answer is wrong, I am going to tell you, so you are missing something here. Again, while doing that one, again you will understand a lot of things. And while answering the again doubts asked by the others, you will find the gap in your understanding, and you will go back and you will look into book, or you will ask the doubt and you will clarify that one. So we can't teach exactly to others actually. We can't have one-to-one so interaction or something. It's quite difficult to arrange those things. But what I do is again, I instruct my student to be active in the group, so that again try to answer the doubts asked by the others, okay, conceptual doubt or problem or something. while answering you will get to know the gaps in your understanding, and again if you fill that gap, that would be complete learning. Okay, so when I go to part 5 here, that is discussion in a group. One of my teachers always used to say that learning is always a team adventure. Okay, again any learning. Okay, so again physics learning is also kind of team adventure. Suppose if you have any difficult what you call concept, or very what you call how to say mathematically or conceptually, if you find any difficult concept, suppose if you are in a group, you will feel confidence, isn't it? Suppose if you go for any adventurous thing, usually we don't go alone, isn't it? And one more thing is, physics is not that subject which can be learnt being isolated, being sitting alone. So it should be learnt in a group actually. So that's why again this learning is always team adventure. So again in that discussion group, whatever I form, all students should be active in asking the doubts, and what you call in the discussion, in answering the doubts and all. Again they should help each other, isn't it? Suppose if you go for some adventure, suppose if anyone stuck, we don't leave them, am I right? We just will take them along with us, isn't it? The same thing we should do again. So during our course, that I'm going to I'll always try to push my students again in the group interaction actually. Okay, so these are the main points. And now again in my course I'll try to implement most of this and some more innovative part actually. Okay, so along with this this reading multiple book and discussion of the concept from the multiple book and solving problem from the multiple book, I'll provide multiple choice, topic wise multiple choice question parallel actually. After solving that textbook properly, most of the case students can solve 70% of the problem themselves. 60 to 70% of the problem. Only 30% of the problem needs some assistance, because they may be quite innovative, problems may be quite innovative, very different. Again it needs some assistance. So that's why again I'm going to feed multiple choice question parallelly, so along with solving textbook. Okay, you should solve